Hi there viewers, I'm the Extraordinary Tourist, and what you're looking at here is just a short session that I did skating my board slider in my driveway. I don't skate this nearly enough, and that's why it doesn't slide very well. But hey, it's something different to open the video with before we get into the drones section. Alright, so if the sound's any good on this camera, I'm going to do some flying of my Visuo drone, which is usually my best drone in terms of flying experience, but one of my worst in terms of the camera experience. But I haven't flown this in like 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm really out of practice, but I wanted to get some footage, and just so you can see it flying around, and I'll try and get some footage out of that camera, but a lot of the times I think it's recording and it's not, so you just have to sort of cross the fingers on that one. So this Visuo drone that I'm flying here is basically a little more than a toy drone. If anything, the camera on it is definitely not professional quality, and for some reason when you see the footage on here, you'll see it looks slightly fuzzy and blurry. It's not as sharp as it could be, but the camera itself is actually really sharp when it's filming close up, so you'll see when it lands that all the grass immediately in front of the camera is in perfectly sharp focus. It's just for some reason the way it's set up is on wide focus, everything is slightly blurry. And you can also see here that the blades on the drone are actually visible within the camera's vision, which makes it not very ideal for shooting any kind of footage for anything. You can point the camera down a bit so that those blades don't show in the vision, but what tends to happen then is you get, if you're flying in an area like this where it's just a lot of green on the ground, you point the camera down, you tend to get a lot of footage just looking at mostly green, and you don't see much of the wider surrounding area. And even as I was flying it on this particular day, the camera was angled slightly down to sort of try and avoid getting too much of the blades into the shot. But the purpose of this day wasn't really to get any footage that would be usable in a video or anything like that particularly. It was more just for me getting out and practicing with my drones, because I think I said it'd been something like 2 or 3 weeks since I'd flown them. I just wanted to get out and actually fly the drones. And this particular day there was actually a slight breeze, and I was having a lot of trouble just controlling this drone. You'll see as it lands here how sharp focus the grass immediately in front of the camera is. So I think the battery may be just about gone. It's been a bit of a struggle trying to control this one because there's a bit of a breeze today, and as I said, I haven't flown this in a while, but in terms of actually flying, this one's the most fun to fly. And like with no breeze, it's very responsive. You can get really high with it, and it's got something like 100-meter range or somewhere around that. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but it's actually got the best range of all my drones too. This little bit of footage here I just left in so that you could see how everything's sort of packed away with this drone. You can see the controller there, it's just got the phone holder that you fold down, and the drone itself, the actual arms fold inwards, making it a very compact sort of drone that you can stick in a backpack and just sort of carry around. Then I thought I'd show you a quick session on my little quarter pipe ramp that I built and sort of show you why I don't actually skate this very much at all. There's not actually a lot that I can do on it. Basically I can sort of go up and do a 50-50 and drop back in, or drop into it as well. That's about it. Part of the reason is that the coping on this ramp sticks out a little bit more than I'd like, making it feel sort of a bit sketchy for even doing 50-50s on, and getting into 50-50s is a bit difficult. And I have actually got an extra bit of surface to put on this ramp so that that coping won't stick out so much. You can see here I tried some rock and rolls, which I used to be able to do really well, but haven't got the hang of on this ramp. So that was just a quick session just to sort of show you that particular ramp. So this is my Rova drone, which there is a high percentage chance that it's either not going to fly, I'm going to crash it, or it's going to disappear all by itself somewhere, or I'm not even going to get it off the ground. I've said, I think in one of my Instagram videos, this is quite possibly the worst drone I've ever owned. So let's just see how it goes. So this Rova drone pretty much wasn't cooperating at all, and you can see this is my first flight of the day, and it took off and nearly completely knocked out my camera that was filming it, and then just sort of kept going. It wasn't really responding to the controls on the app on my phone, so I moved it here away from the camera so that hopefully when it took off again it wouldn't sort of clean up the camera on the second time round. See, almost did exactly the same thing, just took off and started flying. Unlike the other drone you saw me fly, this is intended for using within close proximity to people. The idea is you sort of send it up and film yourself and your friends with it. It's not intended for getting sort of really great aerial shots. This is proving to be uncontrollable. It's just taking off and letting the wind carry it and not being very responsive by the controls at all. The app that it has to control this is so bad that I've never really got the hang of it. I've got another drone that uses a similar app, but I don't have anywhere near as many problems controlling that drone. This one, half the time the app doesn't work, or it's too sensitive, or it's not sensitive enough. This particular flight you're seeing here is the most controlled I had it in all of the sessions that I tried. And out in the middle of this field, it was actually having to deal with a lot windier conditions than what the previous drone did, which had the benefit of sort of being around trees a little bit more. And it was pretty much all I could do to just try and get it to stay anywhere near me at all. This is about the best I got on the day. But yeah, as I was saying, it's designed for taking sort of selfie video and selfie photos. It's meant to be a lot more responsive than this. You're meant to be able to fly it really close to yourself and your friends and fly it indoors. Even has collision detection on it if you turn that on, so that in theory it won't crash into everything in your house. And I have tested that collision detection and it does work, but it's not anywhere near as accurate as what they claim it to be, because it's just a couple of sensors on each side in the middle of the drone. So if it comes up against anything that's sort of thin and not easy to detect, it's likely still going to hit it. But you can put your hand up and push it away and it won't crash into your hand. It'll just move away from your hand. But as I said, the app that controls it is terrible. It could, for a $300 drone, which is what this normally retails at, you would expect it would come with its own controller rather than a phone app. That's largely why the other drone is much better to fly, is because it's got its own controller, and having the actual little joysticks on the controller is much better than trying to use a touchscreen controller, and makes the other drone a much better flying experience than what the Rover is. You can see here it's just sort of taking off. At this point it's no longer in my control and it's just going. You see it stops for maybe a little bit because it's sort of thinking about being under my control and coming back, but then it just loses it again and pretty much takes off, sort of cementing it as being one of the worst drones that I own. So I'm not going to waste any more footage on trying to film this, because that little bit of flight that I did just then was about the most control I've had on this since I started trying to fly it, and the rest of the time it's always flown off straight behind this camera, so it's almost pointless having this thing turned on. So that's going to be it for today. This still has another battery for me to get through, and each battery lasts somewhere between 6 to 8 minutes, so that's going to be another 6 to 8 minutes of hell really, but there you go. Hopefully I've got some footage of how crap this thing actually is. And then just to finish off this video, I had another session on my board slide thing here. This time I was trying to do something different and try and sort of get the nerve up to do like an ollie, frontside ollie to tail on the thing, but I have a real problem with trying to do anything on this particular board slider. And I thought maybe if I sort of stand on top of it and get a feel for what it's like just standing on top of the board and seeing if I could ollie off this thing, which didn't sort of inspire me with a lot of confidence, but you can see there I can ollie off it. For some reason I think if I'm going to ollie onto this thing, it's either going to slide out from under me or I'm just going to not hit it properly and smack the board into my shins and stuff. So, but I tried something different, so I guess that's a bit of progress. And as usual, my dog Oscar thinks that my escape time is also his play time, so just a bit of Oscar hassling me to finish up.